Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to episode 19 of the Beyond the Booster vlog. My name's Eddie, owner of Eddie's Emporium, and you've probably heard this a many times now. This week, I can't believe it, it's been over 6 months now, I think 6 months and 1 week since I started doing this vlog. It's flown by. It's actually quite nice because I feel in the future when I look back at something like this, I'll kind of see how far I came, whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, could be behind bars, who knows. But it's nice to be able to kind of feel that I've hit a milestone. It's nice to obviously commit to doing something and deliver on it. And it's also good from a structural perspective because it really gives me that ability to look back at the week and see where I am. And it's been, quite interesting this week. So from a sales and business update, my distributor has delayed the Avatar pre-orders. So we're close to being over, I think about almost like 4 or 5 days, where I should have had the delivery but have not, which is surprising because I don't think it was an issue with the Wizards. They recently went through like a bit of a transitional period where they got a new website and it didn't really go to plan. So I do feel for them. However, I need my product. I paid for it. It's been quite a standard week for sales, nothing to write home about. I know obviously with it being Black Friday and everything else, I think as a new business, I know that I would love to be able to take part in the Black Friday things, but I'm a bit more focusing on the consistently good prices because right now I have the lack of inventory and, access to fair prices. So I'm trying to just deliver a consistently fair price, and hopefully when I do get a bit more financial and inventory flex and power, I'll be able to hopefully take part in things like Black Friday, give you really good options, really good drops. And obviously that'll be a year from now, so I could be looking back at this vlog in a year's time being like, Eddie, what are you saying? But that's the beauty of hindsight, right? On a slightly more boring note, I managed to start getting the swing of doing reconciliations on Xero. I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable with it, which is fun. And obviously, if you're watching this, being like, "What is that?" It's what you need to do is basically pair up your transactions on your website. And if you're an accountant watching this, who my friend Chloe is, who helps me, is fantastic. Please don't cringe at that. I probably said a lot of things wrong, but it's just basically to help you manage your self-assessment for when you come to do your end of year tax things. They'll go to HMRC. It helps me get an idea of kind of the profit margins I'm making. And if you're aware with my kind of general goal for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years, maybe, depending on growth, I want to be able to reinvest all that profit into the business so I don't need to pay out tax for Eddie's Emporium, which would be dead money because I'd be losing that. I'd rather keep that in the business by buying equipment, inventory, and things like that, which is quite cool because I obviously navigate and learn the ways that I can operate. And as I learn them properly, because I'm trying to not be like a cowboy hint tip giver here, I'll be able to pass that information on to you. And what I found handy is obviously a legal apparatus to support a business rather than it be something that, just could be helped, but, I don't want to learn it. So, if I'm setting up a business, I want to set it up right and learn all the little nuances to really optimize it. So, yeah, stick with this. Watch the space. Or I could be behind bars for tax evasion. So, HMRC, I'm joking. And on that note of, optimizing and being so kind of on it, I feel that, of recent, especially with, such the holidays coming up and all these big releases coming out, I feel like I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I kind of wanted to take a step back and kind of acknowledge the fact that over the past 6 months, and, this is something that you'll probably be able to kind of hopefully like feel similarly to, there's always that expectation and that kind of like what's next kind of situation. And quite recently I've been feeling that kind of I should be doing something. I should be, delivering a piece of tech. I should be building up a partnership with something, or, I should be making a video. And it's okay not to be. And I think that's quite hard to accept a lot of the time as a new business owner. you don't always need to be grinding. You don't always need to be kind of like, getting that bag, because it doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's the problem. And, I like this saying, when you're in like a full-time job, and like myself, who subsidizes his living from his full-time job to build Eddie's Emporium as well. You've only got 12 steps in a year. And I'm not trying to be like a Mojo Jojo financial guru here, but like, you've got 30 days in between that one step. And that leads to a lot of overthinking, I find, especially for me, where I don't have that much capital for Eddie's Emporium to kind of make these big money moves, or when there's a dip in the market and everyone goes, oh, Pokemon's crashing. I can't, you see a person like Alpha Investments who's like, I'm going to make $1 million play. You don't remember, you don't remember, sorry, I've got a fly in my throat. You don't remember that, he was once a waiter waiting tables in Florida. You don't remember like when Leonhardt was not Leonhardt, and it's really hard. Like, comparison is the thief of joy in that sense. So if you are watching this and you are feeling that kind of stress, take a moment, have a look back, because you set these mini milestones in your life, in your year. And I always find that, if you look back, you've probably achieved a lot more that you set out to do, because, everyone looks for, the degrees and everything like that. But if you said you want to be somewhere and you get there, celebrate it. And I'm a real bad person for not celebrating my successes. So that was a little side note, probably how I'm feeling at the moment, but I think it's also good to share that, because, mental health is a massive part of my life. I've been impacted by it, but it's also nice to vent that and acknowledge it, because I find if you do say things like this, it gives less power to that feeling, because a lot of people bottle it up, and I think the British are terrible for bottling it up. It took me ages, stunts of therapy, to be able to, be emotionally vulnerable around people, which still makes me feel uncomfortable, but I think that's the process and the reason behind that kind of thing. So a little segment there. So on a TCG news update, I mean, if you are in the UK, over the past few days, you'll have noticed that the Pokémon Center ETBs and booster bundles have dropped. And I managed to get one, and before you kind of go scalp a 5,000 over here, they are for my own personal collection. My general goal for Pokemon is to just not entertain it until I get distro, unless it's obviously like graded or singles. So if you are interested in selling collections or anything like that, obviously if you've got tens of thousands of pounds worth, I'm not your guy. I don't have that money, as you probably just you rewind that like 2-3 minutes. Let me know, because I do buy, and obviously I will then sell on. And I'm looking to build in a trade-in function, and it's not going to be like a kind of like you just click your cards and it'll give you a number kind of thing, but like a form you can fill out, and it'll kind of populate general rules and stuff, so you can see kind of the rough idea of what you're getting and the rules that I follow. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Ascended Heroes ETB. The promo is sick. These are going to be for my sealed collection. I've started up a sealed collection. I know some people don't like it, but I did think, when things are outperforming stocks and shares over 10, 20, 30 years, these are things I can roll into other inventory. I think it's very important from a business side to also understand the short-term inventory and long-term inventory. Something like a Pokemon Center ETB does go up in value quite considerably, and this is the next special set, so the next one on from Prismatic Evolution. So the goal for me, and I don't mind sharing this because I'm not trying to hide it, is to get something like a Pokemon Center ETB at retail, wait 3, 5, 10 years, and then roll that into other more recent stock, because obviously I'm nearly turning 30 now. My thought is, well, hopefully I've got another 40 more years on this planet, being optimistic, and some. That then would allow for a lot of growth and let's call it plays, because it basically is a play to basically have something over 10, 20, 30 years, and that rolls. Like if I had an Ascended Heroes that's worth X amount in 7 years, I roll that into more recent booster boxes worth their retail value, and then my inventory and general products will grow alongside that. And that's kind of how I'm looking at playing with this. It could go horribly wrong. Pokemon could go out of business. But it's quite interesting to be able to do. It's a nice little fun experiment. Will I crack and open some of these at some point? Probably, most likely so. But my idea is just to hide them so they're out of sight, out of mind. Keep them on a tracker like Collector. And then obviously when the business time is right, I can make that move and roll that into different types of inventory, which ultimately will help people like you, Eddie's Emporium, because it's a business at the end of the day. Oh, and I just want to admit when I'm wrong. I was giving an incorrect piece of information on the PSA mystery slabs. I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, I covered a piece where PSA will send you an offer for your slabs. Obviously, I think around 85, 90%. That was for the mystery slabs that came from things like GameStop. I thought PSA bought them from you and then sold them to places like GameStop. Actually, the offers that you receive are from third-party individuals, businesses that have contracts with PSA to send you them offers. So more likely than not, I'm not saying it's them doing it for definitely, but if you think it's like a GameStop offer being sent to you by GameStop for your slab, rather than PSA sending out blanket situations. But that's because they've got quite a big buyers. And I think I saw like a brief segment, like a TikTok reel with Garchomp and I can't remember what the card show is called, but he mentioned obviously he's getting tons of big buyers that like GameStop hiring, going to conventions down in America and buying like 7-figure buyouts for these stores. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year to 2 years on this slab market, because obviously corporate America, hedge funds and everything are starting to pay attention to how much money and the performance of Pokemon over the past 2-3 years and 2 booms, and outperforming the S&P 500 over 25 years. You would, but it's quite a scary place to be if you're just an average Joe. How was that going to affect Grails? Like, I know obviously, you still have some 10k valued like gold stars and things like that, which isn't affordable for the average Joe. But what if like a corporate Joe buys up every gold star now on the market? What happens there? Does that triple in price? What? I wonder how it's going to affect even just normal vendors at shows, because as I mentioned previously, supply is a massive part. Demand is already through the roof. If you're cutting supply in half with all the new suppliers, then demand is going to turn into frustration at that point, and I think that could really harm the hobby more so than how scalpers and the general astronomical prices are as is. But it's quite a scary position. And also on the note of like the circuit and people doing vendors, it seems Pokemon fans, Pokemon businesses, Pokemon vendors are starting to move over into One Piece. I think it was a matter of time, to be honest, because it's very rare you have a set where you can bet on a card being valued at, over 1,000 or 500 to £1,000 out the box, which obviously, if you're not a One Piece collector, you've got the manga rares, which usually are at anywhere in 1 to 4 cases you'll get like a manga rare, which obviously a case of X amount of boxes, it basically works out quite well in your favor if you were to buy 4 cases, get a manga, in theory sell your dead boxes shows or online, and that happens. That's just not me telling you how I do it. I don't stock One Piece yet, but that's how a lot of people play. Now that is quite bizarre because obviously you look at Pokemon, you don't get cards worth half as much as that, or at least guaranteed half as much as that, kind of out of the offset, which you do with Phantasmal Flames and the Charizards. But you can't always bet on it. And so you can get like an entire, we're at OP 13, OP 14 is coming out soon, I believe. I think it's come out in Japanese. Could be wrong there, don't fact check me. But if you imagine you got 14 sets plus your premium booster premium booster boxes and your extra boosters, you've had 4 of them. You've got like roughly around, let's say 17 mangas that you can pick from. There's multiple mangas that you can get available, and it's just starting to climb. You really see that effect in the market. Now, I think it'll be a good thing for One Piece myself. It'll be nice to see more on the circuit. What I don't like the idea of is that it's pricing out a lot of people, but it's going to happen when you have an IP as strong as One Piece, and then you have such consistent pull rates. It's a really played, I would say arguably behind Magic and Pokemon, it's probably the 3rd most played. I think it probably overtook Yu-Gi-Oh! If you look at LGS's. A lot of long-term people play Yu-Gi-Oh! That have been in Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time. I don't think many new players are coming into it. I certainly was alienated by it, and that's why I think Konami have had a massive rebrand with their Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis, and I think it's Genesis, and that would basically allow it to be a bit more simplified, a bit more new user-friendly, because if you've seen some of these cards now, they are nuts, like small novels per card. And I know Magic can be like that, but Magic's at least kind of got that way where you can play and not have to have like a deck that is a scroll. And yeah, that's it for this episode. It's a bit of a short one, this one. I didn't really have too much to say in the way of business and all that kind of thing. But, these weeks happen when you're on a bit of a lull. And yeah, I hope you're having a lovely week. I hope you are getting all the pulls that you can. And I hope you manage to get hold of some Ascended Heroes, because I know it's going to be a nightmare when release comes and, everyone's scraping for the cards. So they look very cool, but let me know in the comment section if you got any, because it was a bit of a nightmare on release, but it did feel a lot smoother than the general previous ones. Now, I say that probably because I've not actually attempted to get Pokémon Center ETBs. I've never known the timings of it. The only reason I know timings now, I was in Discord, and my friend was in Discord, and he pinged me to start queuing for it, and I did, and I got it, but didn't feel too bad in the general consensus from what I was getting online. A lot of issues that I found were something I encountered. I'm going on a tangent now, but when I was on my phone, I got the block from my IP because I tried to refresh. It didn't like the phone settings. I must have had multiple apps open. When I was on my laptop, I don't know why I call my personal computer a laptop there. It's a desktop. I turned off all my extensions, so AdBlock and all the other things that could potentially look at the Pokemon site, and the Pokemon site go, oh, don't like the look of that, and block you. Don't refresh your screen. Terrible idea to do. It will automatically block you or send you to the back of the queue. If you get through and the page doesn't load, click on new releases on the tab section. It'll take you to the front page where that item is usually the first one on the listing. I clicked back into it, and it allowed me to go in and then make my purchase again. It was kind of like a manual refresh, I found. So nice little hint for you there. Let me know though if you managed to get some. Hope you did, and have a lovely rest of your week. Ciao.